Sens Talk is proud to be powered by Ottawa Interlock Repair for the 2025-26 Sens season. For all your interlock needs, visit interlockrepair.com. Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brendan Plant, and I am your host tonight. Your Ottawa Senators took on the Dallas Stars as they look to make it 3 wins in a row. Now, before we get into the game recap, a couple of things. Firstly, shout out to Big Z, Zdeno Chara, absolute legend on his Hockey Hall of Fame induction. Unfortunately, wasn't a Senator long enough, but one of the classier players in the league and one of the more dominant players in the league when he was in it. So always great to see a former Senator get recognized, and congratulations to Zdeno Chara on going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Now let's get back to current Ottawa Senators. So Ottawa, going into this game, 6-1-3 in their last 10. They've gotten points as well in their last 5 straight games. So looking to keep all that positive momentum and point collecting going. And let's just say that kind of happened. We'll talk about it though, because let's just say I got a little deja vu watching this game. I'll save that for later on in the video. A couple lineup notes. Firstly, Jordan Spence finally getting an opportunity in that top 4 with Thomas Chabot. I love it. Unfortunately, Chabot got hurt in this game. We'll talk about that later as well. So it will be interesting to see where Jordan Spence plays on Thursday against the Boston Bruins. But again, it is great to see Jordan Spence get recognized finally by this coaching staff and rewarded for some strong play. Look at your screen right now. Jordan Spence in nearly every single advanced analytic and offensive category and even defensive categories for the Ottawa Senators is amongst the best or the best. So the fact that Jordan Spence has not consistently been playing for Ottawa and more so has been consistently playing on the third pair doesn't really make much sense. So it's great to see him get rewarded for such great play by getting a top 4 role, which I think he's more than capable of. Again, as I've already spoken about many, many times, Nick Jensen's not getting any younger. Yakimchuk's no guarantee to make the team next year. You're going to need a guy, the stopgap for at least a year or two. Spence can absolutely be that guy, and he's still young as well, so he has potential in his own right. Speaking of Nick Jensen, he was dropped down to the third pair, and that's not exactly a demotion by any means. Nick Jensen played nearly 20 minutes of ice time tonight, all right? So it's not like Jensen's not involved, and sure, the Chabot injury played a factor into that, but regardless of Chabot or not, Jensen was playing a good amount of the game, and with Travis Green, 2 things you need to understand with him. 1, the lineup you see at the beginning of the game may not be the lineup at the end of the game. That's 1. And 2, just because you're on the third pair on the 4th line doesn't mean you're not going to get ice time. Travis Green likes to juggle his lineup, and more importantly, he has his guys. Nick Jensen clearly is one of those guys, and he's going to get ice time for sure. And I thought today he also looked pretty good. So again, it's not that Jensen is bad. I just think coming off a major injury like that and surgery without training camp and essentially no preseason, getting thrown right into the fray as a top 4 defenseman at that age as well as a veteran, not exactly the greatest conditions to succeed. So I think a third pair role is the best case scenario for Nick Jensen, and I think he's going to flourish there. Now we'll see what happens with Chabot. I'll check at the end of this video to see if there's an update from Sens head coach, Travis Green, but as of right now, there's no update. So as far as we know, Jensen could be playing in the top 4 literally in 48 hours against the Bruins. Other than that, the lineup remains the same as Hayden Hodgson remains in the lineup as well at the right wing 4 position on that 4th line. Starting in net for Ottawa, it is Linus Ullmark, and for the Dallas Stars, Jake Oettinger, who has struggled this year, similar to Linus Ullmark. 2 star goalies, 2 top 10 goalies, no pun intended with the star goalie thing, but 2, top 10 goalies in the league, in my opinion, struggling to start the year. So it's not just Linus Ullmark that's struggling. A lot of goalies are struggling. So we'll see what happens in this one. What I will say is both goalies played very, very well. For the first half of the game, Oettinger probably not the greatest, but Ullmark throughout the game was solid, but we'll talk about that in the game notes. Let's get to the first period of play, and not even a minute in, the Sens come out flying and score first for the 4th straight game off a broken zone clear by Dallas after Drake Batherson turned it over. Drake giveth and Drake taketh away from the Stars as he roofs it top shelf. What a snipe by Drake Batherson. Take your bath, Ottawa. My goodness, I feel disgusting and dirty after seeing that one as Batherson opens the scoring to give Ottawa the 1-0 lead with his 6th goal of the year. A great job by Artem Zub to apply pressure to the Stars to turn over the puck. A nice pass by Sanderson finds Drake Batherson, and he does the rest. The roof at top shelf, a picture perfect shot as Ottawa, as I just said, strikes first for the 4th straight game. We continue on as Ottawa continues to dominate in this first period of play, and within the first 10 minutes, the Sens have 2 goals, and yeah, guess what? Nick Jensen, still got it, 2-0 Senators, as Claude Giroux makes an unreal no-look backhand pass to Amadio, who slips it right to Jensen, who's somehow, for some reason, in the slot, in the rush, and he puts it top shelf glove side for his first goal in 42 games, and obviously his first of the year, and Ottawa strikes to make it 2-0, 2 goals, less than 10 minutes in. Michael Amadio as well. It's Amadio, extends his point streak to 5 straight games, as Ottawa, after 20 minutes of play, lead 2-0, and in shots, 12-6. It was all Ottawa in that first period of play. Ullmark was rarely tested. He would be tested for the remainder of the game, though, that's for sure. But the Ottawa Senators, from beginning to end of that first 20 minutes, controlled the entirety of the period. But here's the thing. We all know the Ottawa Senators play 2 ways. One, they come out flying and then sit back and try not to lose. Or they don't come out flying and they somehow find a way to come back and win. Now, unfortunately, this was the former, not the latter, tonight, as the Cardiac Sens had something in store for us today where, for some reason, this team, whenever they have a lead or whenever they have a chance to really put away their opponent, they just never can. They don't have that killer instinct at times this year where they could play a solid first 30, but then they trail off, try not to lose in the second half, in the final 30. And that's why we're in so many overtime games this year. We'll talk about that later, but it is a little frustrating. As Steve Staios said in his press conference the other day, and this is a direct quote, he was pretty annoyed that the Senators pissed away so many points early on in the year. And tonight is another example of that. We're sure they got a point. They probably should have got 2, though. But before we continue and kind of talk about what happened there in that second and third period, I want to give a quick shout out to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk. As Sens Talk is proudly presented by Dylan Puckniak, Ottawa's exclusive realtor with Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment, providing a bilingual real estate service that serves the Ottawa-Gatineau community. Dylan Puckniak is also specialized in supporting professional athletes that come and go in our city, providing a service that takes care of the people at the highest level. For realtor experience puts you and your needs first. Visit www.dpre.ca to find out more today. Again, thank you to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk. So let's get to the second period of play. And this is where the good vibes go to bad vibes. As immediately, like that, the vibes go from good to bad as Thomas Chabot comes out for a skate to begin the period just before the puck was dropped, heads right back to the bench. Looked to be in discomfort. Look at your screen right now. He took a hit in the first period of play. His back collided into the bench, so his back probably bended a little bit awkwardly. The Senators did say that he would not return with an upper body injury, so they diagnosed it as an upper body injury. That either means, obviously, the upper back or shoulders, or the arms, hands, or the head, right? Now, obviously, I'm no doctor, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I did see Chabot, when he was hit, kind of hunch over and hold his arm. Again, am I saying it's a hand injury or an arm injury? No clue. I am no doctor. And I'm going to refresh Bruce Garriock's feed now to see if there's an update. And there's an update, actually. The update is no update, as according to Bruce Garriock just now, no update on Tom Chabot. They will know more tomorrow. He got hurt reaching for a puck. I don't like how that sounds, to be honest with you. If they're knowing more tomorrow, that means they're getting a second opinion. They're getting it reevaluated. And that means that he probably will be out for a bit of time, just a guess. And the fact that he was reaching for a puck is probably a strain. So, luckily for Ottawa, I shouldn't say luckily, poor choice of words, but for Ottawa, they got the game on Thursday and then Saturday against the Kings. Then after that, they have multiple days off before a lengthy road trip, a 7-game road trip. So, for Chabot, hopefully it's nothing too major. At the best case, he doesn't miss any games, but worst case, if he misses games, he misses the next 2, then there's multiple days off, hopefully a week from now, with those 2 games included. And when we're on the road, Chabot will be back. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Again, the fact that they're going to know more tomorrow, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it a little too much, but that doesn't make me feel really good at all, and actually kind of just sucked all the energy out of me. I'm not going to lie. Probably should not have checked, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. I'll give you an update for that on Thursday when Ottawa takes on the Bruins. But we continue on in the second period of play. And Ottawa, for the first 15 minutes, just like the first period, complete control, dominating. But I put out a tweet, and this is so easy to see because we've seen it so often this year for the Ottawa Senators where they come out flying, as I already said in this video, they come out flying, but they can't play the full 60 minutes. The consistent inconsistency by the Ottawa Senators this year continues as, again, they play a solid 30, but they play a horrible final 30, as with a few minutes left in the second period of play. As I already said in this video, the Ottawa Senators have to find a way to be able to put their opponent out. before they can climb their way back into it. They don't, and the Stars grab one to climb their way back into this one. With less than 4 minutes to go in the second period of play, a horrible forced pass by Tyler Kleven along the blue line in the offensive zone is intercepted by the Stars. It sends Mikko Rantanen on the breakaway, and that's not somebody you want to see on the breakaway, as he puts it 5-hole on Linus Ullmark to bring the game to within 1 after 40 minutes of play. Bad forced pass by Tyler Kleven. Not much, Nick Jensen can do there as well. It's Mikko frickin' Rantanen he's trying to keep up with, so no harm, no foul. Again, ultimately, Kleven has to be smarter there. I thought Kleven actually had a pretty decent game, and we'll talk about him later in the game notes, but he played a lot of minutes as well, and he's going to probably have to play even more if Chabot is out. But that was not his greatest play. Again, he's had a really strong year, so I'm not going to really harp on him too much, but that was not his greatest moment there, that's for sure. It's Ottawa after 40 minutes of play, lead by a goal 2-1, and in shots, 21-13 total, and 9-7 in that period. But keep in mind, the Stars had 5 or 6 shots in the final few minutes, and that domination by the Stars would continue in the third period of play. And you would think Ottawa, look, in the 6 games they lead after 40 this year, they've won 5 out of those 6, all right? They've lost 1 in regulation, so more likely than not, they're going to hold on and win this game. But this is the Dallas Stars, a very formidable opponent who had some good momentum going into that third period, obviously, with a late goal, with a plethora of shots there in the final few minutes as well. And that momentum would continue as the Dallas Stars, not even 10 minutes into the third period of play, would strike on the power play to tie the game at 2. Not much Linus Ullmark can do there. That's obvious, I think, for many, but I have to point it out because some still were critical of Ullmark's game tonight somehow. I don't know why or how. I think ultimately there's just going to be haters out there for some reason. And I've been, as you know, critical of Ullmark this year. I think, and Julian McKenzie, friend of the show, put out a tweet, and I completely agree with him saying this. I think this was Ullmark's probably best game of the year, because in that second half of the game, he was standing on his head. After the Stars had like 8 or 10 shots through the first 30, the Stars would lead in shots going into overtime and after the game. So Linus Ullmark is the sole reason why Ottawa even had a chance to win this game and didn't completely choke away at least, a point. They choked away the 2, but at least they got 1. One thing I wanted to mention, though, is a couple minutes into the third period of play, and this is something I really have to mention, because in overtime we saw a couple penalties not called for Ottawa. And look, I don't want to harp on the refs. Ultimately, you got to win the game no matter the circumstances. I think it's a lame excuse, but I mean, some of the calls Ottawa was facing compared to the missed calls for the Dallas Stars, there was multiple examples of it. The most egregious, in my opinion, is Ullmark literally getting ragdolled, ripped out of his crease by Mikko Rantanen. No call. Is goalie interference just not a thing anymore? What the hell is that? Last time I checked, you can't just grab the goalie and throw him to the ice. You just can't do that. So that's not called a penalty. But they're going to call Ridley Gregg for a penalty for a fall through when going for the puck. They're not going to call the Stars for a hooking in overtime, and so on and so forth and so forth. But yeah, we're going to call these fluky, inconsistent calls in Ottawa, and also on the same side, on the other side of the coin, we're not going to call real penalties for you. So not the best performance for the refs tonight. I'll just leave it at that, because ultimately Ottawa lost this game. It's not the refs' fault. The Sens choked away the lead. So it's not the refs' fault, but the refs certainly did not help. So we go to overtime, and Ottawa, as I already said in this game, recap, are the overtime merchants. They have gone to overtime in 5 of the last 6 games. Unbelievable. Actually unbelievable. They won the most recent one in overtime. Shout out to Tim Stützle. So we go to overtime, and as I just said, Pinto was hooked on a partial breakaway. No call. That was just one of the many missed calls against Ottawa tonight. We continue on in the overtime period, and just a couple minutes into the overtime period, after Shane Pinto blocks multiple, and Linus Ullmark again stands on his head, flopping around, keeping the puck out of the net. Eventually, the puck's going to go in, and it does, as Hintz puts it in, and the Dallas Stars walk into Ottawa. Ultimately, it looked like they were going to walk out with 0 points, but walk out with 2 as they win this one 3-2 in overtime, as the Sens' 2-game winning streak comes to an end, as they cannot win 3 in a row. However, there are a lot of positives to take away, and negatives, but positives as well, particularly when it comes to the points that Ottawa has collected. Ottawa, without Brady Tkachuk, in the 11 games without their captain, have gotten points in 10 out of those 11 games. All we wanted from Ottawa was to remain at 500 at the minimum, stay afloat, stay in the fight, and not, get lost in the pack. They've done that and more. So, again, one of my bigger concerns, I believed in this core, but one of my bigger concerns when Tkachuk went down was the fact that maybe they couldn't do it. Maybe, just maybe, Tkachuk was that important to this team and they wouldn't be able to find ways to win. But the complete opposite has happened. I put out a tweet right away when Tkachuk was injured. Pinto, Sanderson, Batherson, Stützle, Cousins, etc. This is your moment to step up and be the guy. And all those guys have stepped up and have become the guys. And again, that needs to be said, and it needs to be, frankly, praised. Because again, yes, we expect these guys to perform, but the way these guys have stepped up big time, clawed their ways in getting some big points, getting some big wins, and being within striking distance of first in the Atlantic Division. Yes, we have pissed away multiple points, as Steve Staios has said, literally yesterday in a press conference. But ultimately, without your captain, to be within striking distance, not of a playoff spot, but of the divisional crown. Beautiful. And just imagine when Tkachuk comes back, what this team's going to be able to do. All right? And he's going to be back very, very soon. Within 5 to 7 games, it looks like. So, just saying. Yes, this one kind of stings, no doubt about that. But points in 10 out of 11 without the captain. They're 6-1-4 in that span. And they've also gotten points in 6 straight, 3-0-3 in that span as well. The Ottawa Senators, with inconsistent goaltending, with a penalty kill that's been off and on, and without their captain, are finding ways to not only pick up points, but get wins and stay not only, again, in the playoff picture, so to speak, but in that divisional conversation. So that is great, great news. And 2 points on the penalty kill and the goaltending. The penalty kill as of late has looked much, much better. And the goaltending especially has looked much, much better. Ullmark tonight stopped 31-34 for a .912 save percentage. Ullmark in his last few starts has really, really looked much better. And again, are we shocked? No, we shouldn't be. Linus Ullmark is a guy that sometimes has some bad stretches, but usually bounces back with some really strong performances. That's why the guy's a Vezina winner, right? There's a reason for that. He didn't just win it by fluke. He's been a consistent, strong goaltender in this league ever since playing, even with the Buffalo Sabres, all right? So, again, he did it with Buffalo. He did it with Boston. He's doing it with Ottawa. And there was no doubt in my mind that was going to happen. It's great to see that Ullmark is finally playing back to his potential. And in that third period especially, he was standing on his head. He made some 2-pad stack saves. He was very aggressive in his net. And one of the biggest concerning things for me regarding Linus Ullmark this year was his mobility in net and the reaction time. Tonight, not a complaint whatsoever in terms of that. He was very good at tracking the puck. His athleticism and reaction time looked like the good old Linus Ullmark as well. And he made some 10-bell stops. The athleticism he displayed tonight was fantastic. So Ullmark stole that point for Ottawa in a game that they probably should have just won in regulation. But again, sometimes things just don't work out the way they should. And Ullmark was a big reason why Ottawa at least got a point out of a game that ultimately they probably could have not even gotten a point out of. So shout out to Linus Ullmark, who played fantastic. Now, speaking of playing fantastic, Jordan Spence continues to play fantastic. He had a really, really good game today. He had a good defensive play there in the first period. I only pointed out, not because he can't do it, but because people say he can't do it, as he used his body and positioning to force Ernie off the puck and to get the puck going back the other way for Ottawa. He also got power play 1 opportunities, but weirdly enough, did not get overtime minutes, and Tyler Kleven did instead. Now, I love Tyler Kleven, but he's not an offensive guy. Jordan Spence is. He's a puck mover. Why would he not put Jordan Spence in instead of Tyler Kleven? Now, as I already said in this video, it's because the Ottawa Senators, when they have the lead, like to play not to lose, not to win. And that's a prime example of that. Now, no offense again to, obviously, Tyler Kleven, but Jordan Spence, it's without a doubt the better offensive defenseman, all right? So him not playing in overtime and Kleven getting a couple minutes just boggled my mind, and scrolling through Twitter, I don't think that's a hot take at all. So, again, baby steps with this, coaching staff. Spence wasn't even getting, minutes. Now he's getting minutes. Now he's getting top 4 minutes. Now he's getting power play minutes. Soon enough, hopefully, he'll be getting overtime minutes. But baby steps with this coaching staff for whatever reason. Now, moving on with that, Drake Batherson and Tim Stützle have really, really good chemistry. I've been very, very impressed with those two. Again, as I already said, these core guys had to step up, and those two guys in particular have absolutely stepped up. And just imagine Tkachuk on that line when he comes back. Ooh, I'm drooling just thinking about it. Unbelievable. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is Thomas Chabot and whether or not he's going to be out long term. Now, we don't know. As I already said, we got an update. We'll find out more tomorrow. That usually means he's going to be out for some time. So who could be called up? Now, what I will say is Nick Jensen has played on the left side before. Steve Staios in his press conference yesterday mentioned how, yes, the loss of Sabrango off waivers to Florida. By the way, shout out to Donnie, who got 2 points. in his Florida debut the other day. Good for him. His first 2 NHL points as well. He's not coming back anytime soon, by the way. Kulikov's out for a long term. He's not going to come back to Ottawa for a long time, in my opinion, if not ever. So that leaves a big hole in the left side. Now, Nick Jensen can play left side minutes. Steve Sayos, as I kind of just said before, mentioned that there's a couple guys on this team that play on the right that can play on the left. So that's likely what's going to have to happen if Chabot's out for any significant amount of time, because the best left-handed defenseman on an NHL contract in Belleville is Donovan, who's played only less than 80 pro games. Not one NHL game. Not great. Not great. That's why you don't want to lose a guy like Sabrango for nothing, especially. So we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully Chabot Shalom is A-okay and we'll be back for Thursday. I'm not holding my breath, though. I think he's probably out at least for a game or two, but hopefully just that. And I think the Sens can do just fine and survive for a game or two without Thomas Chabot. But if it's anything longer, that's a big loss, because obviously this is a guy that brings offensive ability. He's on your power play, sometimes even on your penalty kill. Rarely, but still on your penalty kill. And most of all, he's a top 4 guy that gobbles up a lot of minutes. And on your left side, that's very weak. You need a guy like that. So hopefully it's nothing too long. And we saw tonight, Jake Sanderson and Tyler Clevin play nearly 30 minutes each. So again, that's kind of a preview of what to expect if Chabot's out for any significant amount of time. But luckily, the coaching staff is finally trusting Jordan Spence at the right time, because at least he can step up in that offensive role that Chabot will be vacating if out. Now with that, the next Sens game is on Thursday against the Boston Bruins. On my birthday, I will be there front row. Shout out to Ottawa Interlock Repair for those tickets. I can't wait to sit front row, glass side, and see your beautiful Ottawa Sounders hopefully take down the Boston Bruins yet again and get a big win and get back, most importantly, in the winning ways. So with that, I will see you all Thursday night after Ottawa takes on the Boston Bruins on my birthday. I'll see you all soon. Go Sens, go.